What's up, everyone? Welcome to The Breakdown. I'm Claudia Faust, joined by Evan Abramson and Lance Lawner. Like I said, this is The Breakdown. We call it that because we break down everything you need to know about high school football across the Panhandle. Before we wrap it up on Friday nights, on the wrap-up, guys, this is week 6. Can you believe that we've already come this far?
You know, I'm just saying, I said it before the season started, we were going to make it the full length of the season, and so far, knock on wood, we're doing all right.
I don't have wood to knock on
but
here,
you're right. I can't believe it's already week 6.
All right, well, let's head in and take a look at some of last week's games. The first one, Childress at Spearman. Evan, what do you remember about this game?
Hey, that was probably one of the greatest games we're going to see all season long, if not probably in my time here in the Panhandle, just because it was a top 10 matchup between two great teams. And as always, Brennan Thompson and Jack Wilkerson put on a stud show like they always do, and it brought them to that 5-0 record. Unfortunately, though, because of some COVID cases on the Spearman side, they're now 5-1, so they lost that undefeated record. And I don't know, I hope they don't lose that number 6 slot in the top 10 rankings because they deserve to be higher, frankly, Lance.
Yeah, that was a great game. Obviously, I was out there. Give Childress credit for coming back. As great as Spearman's offense was, guys, they had to have a defensive stand. They had to prevent a 2-point conversion. So the defense gets a lot of love in that. And you guys, do you believe the lights went out? 4th and 1, Childress waiting to score, and the lights go out. And so you have all this drama added to that great game. But yes, it's sad that Spearman has to forfeit that game. I disagree with that rule of the UIL, but we're in COVID, so there are no rules, in my opinion. But it's sad that they won't be playing this week against Canadian.
Well, let's not forget that they only won this game 43-36, so it was a close matchup. But the next game that we're going to take a look at is Midland Greenwood at Canyon. Not as close of a game here, guys. Lance, why don't you start?
Oh, my gosh. I mean, Canyon's on that roll. The numbers are absolutely frightening. You know what I mean? They've outscored their opponents 197-31, and in the last 3 weeks, 126-3. They're just rolling. And a side note to this, the icing on the cake was Blake Bryant, the head coach, 20-year head coach of the Canyon Eagles, got his 150th win. They're so impressive on defense right now. Not to mention we've talked a lot about the killer Jays out there. And then I think Evan's favorite player in the Panhandle right now is a running back for Canyon. Go ahead, Evan.
Hey, Brody Cook, he's just still rolling, man. He's still just grounding and pounding that game right now, and he's doing a great job for Canyon. My favorite play, probably one from the entire Panhandle, is the hook and ladder play that we saw where Jay DeFort passed it, and then they were able to pitch it midair to Brody Cook. And my favorite thing from what Blake Bryant told us, Lance and Claudia, back in that Tuesday presser, is that they don't do those types of trick plays unless they work in practice. So they're not even trick plays, according to Blake Bryant. They're just normal plays. So if those are the normal plays for Canyon, then every team in the Panhandle better watch out because 48-0, they are just unstoppable right now.
All right, guys. Well, why don't we move on to our 2 big storylines? Do we have anything to worry about as far as Amarillo Sandys go after their loss to Midland Lee? What do you think?
Go ahead, Evan.
Hey, look, Coach Dunham said it. This was a playoff team. He's talking about Midland Lee. This is a playoff team through and through. It's a 6A team, no less. So they also have that uphill battle. They were on the road playing a team that's a higher classification and playing a team that went deep into the playoffs last year. So I don't think we have anything to worry about with Amarillo. They did come back later in that game, kind of made it close, and then Midland Lee ran away with it again. But don't be concerned. I think it was a good test. I think, as far as I'm concerned, it was the perfect game to have for Amarillo because after that scrimmage that they had against Odessa Permian, they needed a tough opponent, another tough opponent to really play against, get ready for that mid-season mindset so they don't have to worry about taking their time and trying to figure out who they are as a team. They already know what they're doing. I think that game helps them and prepares them further for games like Midland High.
Yeah, I agree with Evan, Claudia, that Lee's like a 3rd or 4th round playoff team. And Claudia even asked Coach Dunham in the press conference on Wednesday about is he true to his word. The week before he said, hey, this is going to get us ready for down the road. And he was said, oh, yeah, that game made us a lot better. Just so you know, there were 988 yards of offense in that game. My gosh, and Will Maynard, he lit it up, 352 yards, 5 touchdowns, 24-43. Those are the numbers. So, I mean, a terrific performance by Amarillo High. no shame in losing that game there. And that'll get you better because they're not going to see probably a team quite that good. And that might include Tascosa. We'll see here this weekend in that whole district. Hey, what we got to do is fire their schedule maker. They're back in Midland this week. Same field against a different team. That's back-to-back weeks in Midland. Come on. And the schedule maker, Coach Dunham himself. So we'll give him a break.
Well, at least it's familiar territory. I also want to add to that after I asked him that he said that there were 0 regrets after that game,
Right.
which that's always great to hear, especially after a loss, that they still feel like they did everything they needed to do to play the best game that they could, and he believes that they did. But moving on to the next storyline, Canadian. They've missed out on quite a few games already. Should they still be ranked number 1, even though they haven't had as much competition? One of which, the game they just lost out on this week against Spearman, but they have rescheduled a new game. Evan, tell us more about that.
This is tough for me because I love Canadian all the way through. Their offense is spectacular. Their defense is a brick wall. But at the same time, you have teams like Spearman and Childress from the Panhandle also representing. Childress, I don't think they should be number 1. They definitely deserve to be in the top 10. But you have a team like Spearman who's proved all the way through that they can compete with the top teams in the Panhandle because of guys like Brennan Thompson and Jack Wilkerson and the entire defense and the entire offense. I don't know who deserves to be number 1 right now, but I don't know if you can fault Canadian for missing a game almost 28 days in a row before they got this game just last minute in Kansas.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you, Evan. I mean, I say you can't drop them. You know, I mean, they've done nothing wrong. Now, I will say this. You do not get better as a football team by sitting at home on Friday night watching everybody else play. That's the bottom line. That's how you improve. Your sophomores, your juniors. You just get under those Friday night lights and you get better. They'll be in Hugoton, Kansas tonight. I mean, on Friday night. They got that game scheduled. What a crazy, crazy year for Canadian to lose 3 games in a row. But I say rank them number 1. Why not? What have they done to disprove that? I mean, they're the same team they were back when they were number 1. They just haven't had a chance to prove it on the field.
You know,
I think I'm with both of you on that.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it just really makes you wonder what would have happened in that Spearman Canadian game, because I still think that would have been the game of the year, probably the game of the decade, honestly, in my opinion. I mean, can you imagine that those two teams going up against each other? We thought Spearman Childress was going to be a lights out epic game, and it was.
Hey, and Claudio, guess where the Canadian coaches were last Friday night? Sitting in the stands watching that game personally. You know, we think all this virtual stuff's on, but nah, it was old school. Whole staff was up there checking it out. It was kind of fun.
Evan had quite the hot take saying it would be the game of the decade. I wonder if that really would have held true. But let's head into the pick'ems now. The first one, obviously, well, we don't even need to remind everyone at this point that Lance is just going to constantly be in the lead, apparently. But the first pick'em, Midland Lee at Tascosa. Evan, what's your pick?
Oh, I'm going Midland Lee. After they took down Amarillo, I mean, I'm convinced that they're going to take down Tascosa also. I haven't seen enough of Tascosa yet, but that's partially my fault for not going out to enough practices. But if you're able to take down a guy like Will Maynard, who throws for over 350 yards and 5 touchdowns, they're going to be taking down some tough opponents, especially the Tascosa Rebels.
Yeah, this is a hard one for me. I love my boy Plunk. You know, they do such a great job. They have that unique offense that nobody gets to see now. Lee and Tascosa played 6-7 years in a row. They're not strangers to each other. It's always a shootout. Tascosa has a few starters out on that offensive line. I think that's going to slow them a little bit in this game. I hate to pick against their home opener, but, you know, you got Mikey. Mikey might not sound like a very tough name, but Mikey Serrano, the quarterback for Midland Lee, is the real deal. I think we're going to see a shootout, and I have to go give Lee the edge.
I agree with both of you. I'm going with Midland Lee. Same exact thing. Lance, you took the words right out of my mouth. I also hope I'm wrong. Although I kind of hope I'm right because I'm falling pretty far behind right now. So I take that back. But the next pick'ems, Amarillo at Midland High. Evan.
All right, Amarillo's going to blow them away. This is going to be a huge bounce-back game. Not even that it's a bounce-back because they're not bouncing back for much. Like we said, they played a tough playoff-bound team. I think it's just going to be a blowout by Amarillo. Look for Will Maynard to explode with offense. Davin Lemons is going to do great things in that game.
Midland has struggled recently. I don't know if it's going to be a blowout, but it could be. It could be. Just so you know, a little side note, Tim Anaskavich, they called him A to Z, played at Canyon, played at WT. He's the head coach of Midland. But I think Amarillo has just too much firepower. Plus, like Claudia just said, they're used to the road trip down there. I mean, it's going to be nothing new. It's basically a home game for them in Midland. So Amarillo High in a big way.
Also going with Amarillo because same exact reason. Like I said, this is familiar territory now. They were just there last week, so this is nothing new. But the next one, West Texas at River Road. Lance, you can start.
Okay, West Texas had 2 weeks to prepare for this. And I say this, and I'll keep saying it, the greatest first name in Texas high school football, Lance Welps, is the quarterback of River Road. And they're coming off a 47-0 win over Fritch. Tough for me to pick against the road at home. But my man Cruz in West Texas can flat out get it done. He is one cat who can scat. I got to go with West Texas.
I hate to go against River Road as much as we do. I mean, Lance, it's kind of like you with Tascosa. You hate to go against Tascosa. I hate going up against Lance Welps and Brian Welps, but I got to go with West Texas here.
Woo.
Never doubt a man like Avion Cruz. That kid is a stud. He is the definition of a dual threat quarterback. I mean, and I've seen too much of him blowing away opponents to go against Avion Cruz.
And I'm going to give this one last try with going against the grain, and I am picking River Road in the off chance that that's what separates me from you guys. So I've got Brady over here celebrating. I think he's a River Road alum.
It's not that bad of a pick. It could happen.
Yes, I think it might, hopefully in my favor. But Lance, it's your turn for your famous shout outs.
Okay, here we go. Booker visits Boys Ranch. Remember a few weeks ago I told you that Boys Ranch has lost 40 in a row. I thought my boys in Booker would be coming in without a win. What do? They up and show me up, and they beat Memphis last week. So this pick's a little shakier than it was, but I'm sticking by it. I'm going to go Boys Ranch to end a 40-game losing streak Friday night. Let's go Riders. Hey, is there any team under the radar more than the Pampa Harvesters? I mean, my gosh, what else I got to do? They're 5-0. They average 50.2 points a game. They've scored 73, 56, 50, 49, and 28. Greg Pointer and the boys, shout out to you. And finally, remember the number 26? You know why? Levelland goes into Canyon Friday night. This is the third consecutive game against a District 3-4A Division I opponent. They lost to Dumas, but they scored 26 points. They lost to Pampa last week, but they scored 26. They play Canyon this week. I predict they score 26 points.
Love to hear it. Well, I'm going to give my quick shout out. Shout out to Brady, our producer, and everything that he does to make this happen. Caitlin and our digital team, we couldn't do it without you guys. You just listened to the breakdown, but make sure you tune in for the wrap up at 11:05 on News Channel 10. Thanks for sticking with us.